This is the Friday, April 10th, 2015 version of the Market Plus segment. Joining us now is Tomm Pfitzenmaier. Tom, welcome back.
Thanks, Mike.
We did not have a chance to discuss cotton during the program. Give us your insight. We're on a nice little uptrend here in this cotton market. Does it look like it might have some legs? You know,
I looked at that before we did the show. Cotton has been in a trading range basically since last August, with the low down, 58 or so, the high up around 66. And we're up at that high right now, and I don't see anything on the horizon here that's going to break us out of that trading range. So if you're a grower of cotton and you're looking at that, we're up at the levels where you need to be selling some cotton. I don't think Chinese demand is strong. I mean, it's obviously they're buyers of our cotton, but I don't think it's strong enough to break us out above that level. There's going to be enough cotton planted this summer that keep the supply fairly decent. So I think you use this as a chance to sell up against this resistance levels. Now, if you can't stand that, if you think I'm completely full of baloney, go buy yourself some kind of a December call option to re-own it or protect yourself on the upside. But I would sell either the cotton itself or the futures up into these levels.
Because looking at the devil's advocate position is, well, we've seen phenomenal amounts of moisture in the Delta and in the South. Planting could be delayed in some cases fairly significantly. But you're saying just demand's really not there for more than we've got scheduled.
Right, yeah. I mean, all that stuff is what's gotten us to the point we're at today.
And here we're hitting resistance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we do want to jump into some of our questions here from viewers both on Facebook and on Twitter. And Gary Vetter on Twitter, Gary G. Vetter, is curious, when would be a good time to lock in feed needs? And let's talk hogs, corn, and soy meal, as well as cattle on the corn side.
Well, take meal, for example. I think meal is probably going sub 300. So I'd be paid. I mean, we made steps toward that this week. But if beans continue to work down, which I think they're going to do, I think you can stay hand to mouth for a while here. Now, maybe, I don't know what that is, 30, 45 days, but I think you'll get quite a bit cheaper bean meal. As far as corn, I don't know. You can make the case for corn to go up quite a bit. If acreage is down a little bit and we have any kind of a hiccup in planting or in the growing of the crop, you could get a rally in corn. So I guess you could make a case for at least a little of it if you got sub $4. If we have a good crop and everything's peachy, I think corn's going to go back down to 3 or 3 1/4. So that's kind of, you have to ask yourself, maybe, do I do that with a call maybe? And own it and get some protection against upward price movement. When you're a downtrending market, yeah, my attitude is kind of, what's the hurry?
You bet. And now looking at we know the scenario for the upside movement, lower acreage, trend line or under trend line yield. To the downside, to get that corn to 350 or 3 1/4, how much weight is going to be on those USDA reports potentially increasing that carryout 100 or 150 million bushels?
Well, again, a lot of people in the trade think the USDA is still understating or overstating demand, understating the carryout by 100 to as much as 200 million. We don't tend to have under trend line yields when we have an El Nino, so you could be looking at 1.8 to 2.2 billion bushel carryout next year, which could drive corn down to that 3 1/4 range again. So again, if you think you need to do something, but you're in a downtrend, that to me is the time to use calls.
All right. Now, we have a question here. You touched on it just briefly during the program and just a second ago. Amanda in Northern Ohio, she's one of our Twitter followers. She's curious, is there any hope for beans?
Well, like I said on the show, there's always, you can rally beans 60 cents for no good reason, but where's the hope? You've got a pretty large carryout. Granted, it went down to 370, but still, that's a lot. You've got a big South American crop. You've got us an increasing acreage this year with probably trend line yields. You've got the real dropping in Brazil, so there's all kinds of, they're getting, it's comparable to $12 to $13 beans down there. So they're incentivized like crazy to plant beans next year. What is there to give us any more than short covering rallies? I just don't see it. personally.
So for marketers looking to, if they've still got old crop on hand, would you wait for one of those short covering rallies and just get out knowing that it might be a fairly long-term downtrend in this market?
In a downtrending market, the faster you can sell, the better off you are, is all I'd say.
You bet.
And if you get that little 40, 50 cent pop I'm talking about, then I think you just clean the bins out.
New crop, same story? Get
Absolutely.
most of it unloaded here as early as possible?
Absolutely.
All right.
There's a lot of downside potential in beans.
And it's that awkward downside potential where you go from profitable to unprofitable rather than profit to more profit on the upside.
Yeah, I always say it's a tricky decision-making matrix when you switch from profit maximization to loss minimization. And it's not I mean, I can blab about it pretty nonchalantly here, but it's not an easy decision to make. There's no question about it.
Well, now, speaking of cleaning out the bins, John in Jessup is curious, how much longer can I hold on to my old crop corn?
As long as you got money in the bank, I guess.
How much longer should he hold on to his old crop corn?
I don't see any reason the whole I mean, maybe the standard strategy this summer seems to be wait for this weather, this guaranteed weather concern rally that we're going to have, and then I'm going to unload everything. Well, everybody in the Corn Belt's sitting waiting for that. That's one of the reasons why it's going to have a tough time going up. It's out there. Everybody knows it's out there. The end users know it's out there. They know it's got to move at some point. If we got a fairly good sized crop coming in this year, the end users are smart enough to know to wait. So, you know, you're just holding on to something that's going to continue to be an eroding asset. And you've got a good basis now. The market's saying, hey, we want it now. We're going to pay you a good basis to get our hands on it. And people still won't sell it.
Needs a better basis to get them to unload.
Apparently.
Man. Well, now let's talk, before we let you go, Tom, crude oil. That's been just hovering right there north and south of $50 for the past 6 months. Are we going to see a break one way or the other, do you think?
I think we're going to hover in this 45 to 55 range probably until some news. You know, we've got this Iranian nuclear agreement thing, which everybody got a little excited that was going to pour a bunch of crude oil onto the market when they kind of got that implemented. Now that's not looking quite as good as it had been. The Saudis have announced that they have no intentions of cutting. Everybody's running around here all excited about rig counts dropping in the U.S., and yet U.S. crude production's been up 4% as a result. We're at the highest inventories we've had in 42 years. Everything you can put crude oil in has got crude oil in it. So everything we talked about in the corn market with corn sitting in bins that are limiting the upside on corn is absolutely true in the crude oil market. That all that stuff that's floating around and in storage in Cushing, Oklahoma and everywhere is going to be a lid on the crude oil market.
But it doesn't seem to be much of an anchor. I mean, we
Right.
came down to this 50, and then now the world seems to be okay with swimming in crude. And
Yeah, they're assuming that eventually these marginal producers and the frackers and all them are going to get sort of kicked out of the market, and that eventually it's going to have to work its way higher. But that doesn't have to happen soon. That's for sure. I think it's going to be a slow grinding, chopping type thing if it does happen.
all right. Well, Tom, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us this
All
week.
right. Thanks, Mike.
And thanks to all of you for sending in your questions via Facebook and Twitter. Please continue to do so. Tell your friends to do so. And we want you to have a great week. Thanks for watching.